Hello, I'm Jerry Wise. I'm a therapist in Carmel, Indiana, and this video is entitled The Basics of Triangles. The Basics of Emotional Triangling. And I wanted to give you a quote by Murray Bowen, who is the grandfather of family therapy, and he wrote, "A two-person emotional system is unstable in that it forms itself into a three-person system or triangle under stress." I'd like to talk to you just a little bit about the way a triangle looks and maybe draw a triangle for you on the board and describe some of the dynamics, because we've all experienced triangles. We've all are engaged in triangles, and triangles are a real significant part of relationship life for all of us. We can either see those triangles and deal with them or not, but we often get caught up in triangles, and we can reduce stress, resolve codependency, grow and mature more when we deal with the triangles in our lives. So let me talk about a classic one, and I have written on the board a marriage relationship between Bob and Mary, and this is describing emotional triangles. Bob and Mary are married, and with any dyad, and we call this a dyad because it's two, it has two people in it, and basically we believe dyads are fairly unstable just by their nature. In other words, they're stable for a while, but will become unstable when just two people are involved. Stresses begin to occur between Bob and Mary. Conflicts, disagreements, anxiety, all kinds of life stressors come along, or disagreements between the two of them. And for example, Bob and Mary are talking about the kids, let's say, and they're discussing what they want to do regarding the kids, and they just don't agree, and they have different ways of viewing it. And so this straight line, which kind of illustrates some calmness between the relationship, becomes filled with stress and anxiety and looks more like that. And so now there's conflict or stress between Bob and Mary. Bob and Mary are not talking or communicating very well. So then Mary then turns to her mother to talk about the stress between she and Bob. And so she triangles in her mother talking about all those problems, also feels like she wants support, so she tries to get her mother on her side, and now we have a classic emotional triangle. And so we have two parties that triangle in a third. Now these can be persons, issues, it can be all kinds of things as this third part of the triangle. And what happens and shapes, and the reason why triangles occur, is because when Mary triangles in her mother, she feels supported, or there's a calmness or a safeness or comfort between Mary and her mother. Also, there seems to be less conflict between Bob and Mary. So this line that has conflict in it now has become much more calm and safe. They're not arguing about it, because all of the stress is now being funneled down towards Mom, because all of this is moving. The hot potato of stress, anxiety moves down towards Mom, and Mom's now hearing all of this. And so Mom and Mary become closer around this issue of Bob and Mary's disagreement. But then what happens to the third leg of this triangle? So now we have calmness here, and it shifts that way. And now Bob and Mary's mother end up having conflict or stress between the two of them because now it's 2 against 1. And Bob feels not getting any support from Mary's mother. Mary's mother agrees with Mary on everything. They're going, yes, Bob's wrong, Bob's wrong. So Bob's on the out, and Mary and her mother are feeling very good. Now, there's a little less stress here because they're not arguing quite so much, because now Mary's taking her stress to Mom, and however, that can increase some of the conflict here too, because now Mary's coming back and saying, Mom says to me about you something. She and I agree that you're wrong, Bob. And so it can create some conflict there. It creates more conflict there, but it provides some safety and comfort here. Now the difficulty is the emotional triangle tends to mess with this relationship, and it messes with this relationship, making it more unhealthy and more difficult. But it also messes with this relationship too, because it provides more fusion. They become fused or enmeshed. We call it enmeshed in this relationship. And so now we've got a real problem going on as a result of this triangle. If this triangle continues for years, guess who gets impacted by this triangle? The next generation, or the kids. So what happens here ends up floating on down and flowing on down to the next generation. That's why emotional triangles are very important to understand, very important to resolve, and can help sort out a relationship here and here and here. And clearing that up is very important. This can be all very invisible. This feels all very invisible to most of the people involved here. And I think that's where getting some help can help clear up emotional triangles and can really reduce stress, improve intimacy between Bob and Mary, can provide more healthy relationships between intergenerations, because this is 2 different generations. There's Mary's mother's generation, and then there's Mary and Bob's generation. Then there's the kids' generations from Mary and Bob, so that's another generation. And so maintaining intergenerational boundaries and health is very important for everyone to be whole and happy and mature. So what determines when a triangle will occur? And I think there are 3 factors that influence our relationships as to whether we will triangulate or get into a triangling situation or form a triangle with another person or issue or belief. The first is the level of maturity or the level of self-differentiation of the partners involved. And I think depending upon the level of maturity an individual has will determine how they'll be able to resist triangulating with other issues or other people. Second of all, triangles occur and will occur based upon the amount of stress or anxiety or non-resolved conflict between parties in a system. In other words, the more stress, the more difficulty, the more we're likely to triangulate. If a couple's going along and doing really well, then let's say a husband gets a DUI, then stress goes up in the family, stress goes up in the marriage. We're more likely to have a triangulating situation occur where somebody will involve a third party to try to reduce the amount of anxiety and stress within the relationship. And then thirdly, I think a factor determining whether triangles will occur is based upon the continued force or dynamic of family origin triangles that have never been resolved. If we still are caught in emotional triangles from our family of origin, we're more likely to reproduce triangles in those type of situations as adults. So those are the three factors that are involved that will determine whether a triangle tends to or begins to occur. Again, a triangle occurs when tension arises in a relationship and a third party is triangled in, creating increased comfort between the original parties. Triangulation lets off steam, but creates other conflicts and provides a false or immature sense of calmness in relationships. What are some of the common examples of triangulating? Talking to other employees about the boss. A father over-focuses on his kids, leaving his wife out or ignoring her. A wife pits her children against their father during a divorce. Having an affair is an example of triangulation. Gossiping or talking about someone who is not present is an example of triangulation. And so one question people will ask, well, what are the third parties that can be involved in a triangle? The third element in a triangle can be a person, excuse me, a person, a belief, a role, an addiction, a fear, a job, a church. There are lots of things that can be triangulated into relationships. It does not just have to be a third person. So how do I avoid triangles or remove myself from a triangle? First of all, focus on yourself rather than others. Deal with yourself, regulate yourself, focus on yourself, and managing your own anxiety, your own stress, your own beliefs, your own feelings. Second of all, manage your anxiety and stress. You may be too stressed or too anxious, which creates or pushes this triangle to happen or keeps you in a triangle. Stay non-reactive, which is not always easy, but staying non-reactive is very important. The more reactive we are, the tighter the triangle becomes. Get help from someone who can remain objective and someone who will not take sides. A good therapist, a mature pastor, a very mature friend. These are some examples of folks that we can go and talk to who will not triangulate in with us in those relationships. Don't get help from someone who will feel the need to side with you against someone else. That only increases and pushes the triangle even more. To prevent triangulation or triangles, resolve the old triangles that are left over from our family of origin. For example, an old triangle would be mom talking to you as a child about dad. Mom triangulating the child into the marriage. That's an old triangle from our family of origin. Increase your self-esteem. Increase your self-differentiation. Heal your codependency. And resolve shame and abandonment issues in your life. If you resolve those, you're less likely to get into triangles and get caught up into more triangles. Those are some things I wanted to share with you today about triangles. I hope it's been a help to you to kind of give you some basics of triangulation and triangles. If you'd like more help, give me a call at 317-919-6264. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks for listening.